And let's just notice in our lying position, our feet heavy to the mat and our sacrum and pelvis heavy. There's a little bit of an arch probably for most of us in the low back. And then ribs and spine are heavy. A little bit of gap for the neck, and then the skull is heavy. And you can imagine the spine is along a straight track. And let's just notice if we can feel equal weight between the left and right sides of the body. And if you don't, you can always use towels to prop underneath. If you have any spinal stuff that means that it's uneven, you're welcome to do that, placing towels under the side that feels like it's lifting away. And from here, let's round the low back into the mat. We'll imagine we're splashing water from our pelvic bowl onto our belly button. And then we'll lift or arch the low back away from the mat, imagining splashing water between the thighs. We'll add our breath. We'll exhale as we round the low back into the mat. And we'll inhale as we arch away from the mat. Continuing with this movement, you can check in with shoulders and neck and remind them that they can soften. Feeling the initiation of the movement happening with the pelvis. And seeing if we can keep the spine in that straight track as we alternate between the two positions. If you feel any curving in your spine, for some of us, that's really normal. So if this straight track cue isn't working for you, just ignore it. And then we'll find neutral. If you have something under your head, we'll just take it out for a minute. And we'll go into our bridging. So we'll start with our coccyx curl, rounding the low back into the mat, and then we'll peel up one vertebra at a time. Weight is equal between the 2 feet, and then let's rib cage the arms overhead. And then as the breastbone softens and we lower down, we'll angel arms like we're making a snow angel, or let's say we're making a beach angel, because that's a little more weather appropriate. As we peel up, we'll float the arms up and overhead. Notice where the weight is on the feet. Can you feel the 4 points of each foot? And can you also notice that the weight is equal between the 2 sides? A lot of us will have a tendency to put the weight on a specific part of the foot or on one foot more than the other. So if you notice that, you can just play with seeing on those parts that you notice you're not putting a lot of weight. Can you shift a bit of weight there? And then use your comfort as a guide. If you find that position, but it's creating discomfort that makes the exercise pretty miserable, then back off a little bit. And let's do the last few. We'll imagine the spine is like a jellyfish, just rolling up and rolling down. So we're finding some ease in the movement, releasing what tension we can. Let's do one more. Feeling the support of the back body as we come up. And rolling back down. If you had something under your head, you can place it back now. And we'll move into our tail swish. We'll bring our right hip bone and our right rib closer to one another. And you may also feel that the left sit bone is lengthening down towards the left heel. And then we'll float the left arm into rib cage arms overhead. And you're going to reach the finger away from that sit bone or away from the left hip bone. And then we'll bring the hips through center. We'll lower the arm down. Left hip bone and left rib get closer together. Right sit bone glides towards the right heel. Right arm floats up and overhead. And we'll reach the sit bone and the finger away. And then invite the ribs to soften here. And we'll come through center. We're going to continue with this, but we'll pick up the pace a little bit. Swishing the tail to one corner. Arm lifts on the side that is lengthening through the waist. And we'll lower down. Breathing as we go, feeling for this length through the side body. Maybe feeling that lengthening even through the low back where through the side and low back is what I mean. And in. Let's finish this one up. We'll come through center and then we'll feel, let's place our hands on our hip bones and we'll feel the right hip bone sink down towards the mat as the left hip bone lifts slightly. And then we'll come through center. Left hip bone sinks as the right one lifts slightly. You can also think of water splashing over one hip. We roll across the back of the sacrum to the other side. You can check in with shoulders again, remind them that they don't need to help you. And continuing your breath. Let's do one more on each side. Waking up the deep muscles of the pelvis and spine. We'll come through center. And you can bring the arms down to the side. We'll go into our circle. So we'll splash water on belly button, over one hip, down between the thighs, over the opposite hip and back to belly button. And let's see if we can make as precise a circle as possible. And so you may want to start small and slowly expand to see what that does for you. And if it's helpful, it's inhaling for the first half of the circle and exhaling for the second half. We're going to pause. Let's reverse directions. Inhale for the first half and exhale for the second half. Again, focusing in on the preciseness of the circle that we're drawing on the mat. With our back of our pelvis. And we'll come through center. If you'd like to place a towel under the low back, we're going to go into a bit of a core series here. And so if you do that, it's just going to be a support for staying in neutral, and it's just going to guide us. And we want to keep the low back connected to that towel throughout the movement. If you start to feel the low back lifting away, then you're just going to adjust the movement to a place where you can keep that connection. Let's bring our fingertips to the crease in between our thigh and our pelvis. And we'll float the right leg up to tabletop. Notice that crease deepens as that thigh bone glides back and down into the hip socket. And then we'll bring that foot back to the floor as the thigh bone glides forward. Left leg floats up, thigh bone glides back and down into the hip socket. Thigh bone glides forward as the left foot comes down. Let's add our breath here. We'll exhale as the right leg floats. We'll inhale as we lower down. Exhale as we float. Inhale down. Once you have that, you can shift the hands to the tops of the hip bones and see as the legs are moving, if you're able to keep the hip bones in a fairly even plane. So the pelvis is quiet as the thigh bone rolls back and down into the hip socket. And we'll finish up with one more on the left side. And then this time as the left leg comes down, we're going to pick the right foot up. So we're alternating. You can stay wherever is comfortable for you in this sequence. So if this doesn't feel great, just stick with the lift and lower. And remind the shoulders that they can soften. Sacrum is heavy to the mat. Ribs are heavy to the mat. And keep breathing. Let's do one more on each side. And then we'll bring up the second leg to join the leg that's in the air. So both legs are in tabletop. You can squeeze the legs together. Sacrum is heavy. Low back is on the towel. If this position is not working for you today, you can try a couple of things. You can try letting the shins be heavy. That will release a little tension from the hips. You can also try bringing the knees towards the torso, rounding the back a little bit. Or you can bring one foot down and just work on one side, and then we'll swap. So from here, whatever position you're in, you'll bring your hands to your thighs. And we're going to inhale here. And as we exhale, we're going to press into the thighs. The thighs are going to resist that pressure. And we're going to hold. And then we'll inhale, let that release. Exhale, press into the thighs. Ribs are heavy, low back stays connected to the towel. Even check in with the collarbones, they can be wide. We'll let that release. If you've got one leg up, you can switch your legs here. Inhale, exhale, press. If you feel a little bit of shaking, that's completely normal. We'll inhale, release. Let's do one more. Exhale, press. And then we'll just give ourselves a little knee squeeze as we release. And we'll bring the feet down to the mat. Heels are, our feet and knees are together. We'll open the arms. I'm going to take the towel out from under my low back as well. Palms facing up, arms in low V. Shoulder blades are heavy on the mat. We'll sway the knees towards the right and the head can turn towards the left. And just pause for a second, breathing into the side body. Noticing how the front of the left chest is opening, feeling for the spiral through the spine. And then we'll imagine we have a stone in the back of our left pocket and it's going to bring that hip back to the mat. And then we'll sway in the other direction. Knees to the left, head to the right, shoulder blades heavy on the mat. We'll pause here. We'll breathe into the side body. Imagine there's a heavy stone in the back of the right pocket and we'll come back through center. We're going to continue with these, but we'll pick up the pace a little bit. Knee sway using the inhale as you rotate. And exhale, the core bringing the pelvis back to the mat. You can move at whatever pace is feeling good for you today. Envisioning that spiral, and as we breathe in, how that spiral of the spine expands. Let's do one more in each direction. And coming through center, we'll lengthen the leg that's, well, either leg actually, and we're going to roll onto our side and then onto our belly. So what I'm just doing a log roll here. You can get on your belly in any way that works for you. Here's where we're going to use a prop under the hips. So you can stack a couple towels. I'm going to take my blanket here and I'm going to fold it. And we're going to rest our hip bones. We're going to lay on our tummies, resting the hip bones on the prop, but the pubic bone will be off the prop. And the pubic bone will envision sinking down towards the floor. And you can use a TheraBand here to help reach the foot if needed. We'll rest the forehead on the left hand. And using a TheraBand or your right hand, we'll reach back and hold onto that right leg. We're going to feel for gravity to allow the pubic bone to sink. So we're just using this prop, just lifting the pelvis up a bit to deepen the stretch and also to let gravity help us find this a little bit. You can stay just like this, or if you want, you can also rotate the thigh to the outer part and then rotate in. So you choose what works best for your body. It doesn't have to be a huge movement. Opening through the front of the thigh here. And then we'll come through center, we'll release, we'll give that leg a little shake. And we'll place that foot down. You need a what, Ella? Yes, you can, yeah, you can come get it. Go ahead. And then we'll place the right hand on the floor, the forehead on the hand, and we'll reach back with the left hand or left TheraBand to hold onto that foot. Feel gravity sinking the pubic bone towards the floor. Maybe this is enough of a stretch for you and you're welcome to stay just like this. If you want to add in that little rotation with the thigh bone, feel free to do that. And also just know that you can do something different on each side of the leg. So both sides of our body are going to be slightly different. So feel free to do what works, even if that means it's something different. Breathing as we go. We'll come through center. We'll let that release. We'll shake out the leg. We'll come off of this blanket here or this prop and we'll move it out of the way. And you can use it to rest your forehead on if you'd like. We'll bring our arms out into a goalpost position, so that 90-degree or cactus position. Feel for the pelvis sinking in towards the mat. And let's flex the feet, so toes are on the mat. And we'll point the right ankle. We'll straighten that knee, and then we'll hover that leg off of the mat. Pelvis stays heavy, and then we'll lower that down. We'll point the left ankle, straighten that knee, pelvis heavy, hover the leg. Thinking length here from head to toe, length over height of the leg. Let's add our breath. We'll exhale as right foot points, floats, feeling that connection from crown of the head to toe. And inhale as we come down. Exhale as the left leg hovers, finding that connection from head to toe. And inhale down. We're going to add the upper body. So applying a little gentle pressure with the forearms. As the right leg grows long and lifts, we're going to hover the upper body as well. Pelvis heavy. Collarbones move backwards in space. Feel for length from head to toe. And lowering down. Left leg points, leg straightens, upper body hovers. Collarbones move backwards in space. Feel that length from head to toe. And lowering down, using whatever breath pattern is working for you. So you can either use an inhale or an exhale on the float. Just try not to hold the breath. Feel the spine melting towards the breastbone. We're going to do 4 more at your own pace. Feel the collarbone still moving backwards in space, really opening through the front body. And then we'll lower down. We're going to bend the legs in and we'll just rock the pelvis from side to side to release the low back. From here, we're going to push back up onto our all 4 position. And your hands can either be on forearms or you can have your hands down. And we'll widen the knees. And we're going to feel how our spine is long from head to tail. And we're just going to shift back towards the heels. It doesn't matter how low the body gets towards the floor. We're thinking more length instead of relaxation there. And then if it feels okay for your body, we'll just shift the pelvis from side to side. Just getting deep into the hips. Getting some more synovial fluid in there, which brings all the nutrients and protects the cartilage as we move and walk throughout our day. And then we'll come through center. We're going to come to standing in whatever way works for you.